want to talk to you about what I call corridors of consequence. Because if you know you were meant for more than what you have in your life right now, and you know you were meant to be more than you are being right now, then you are in the right place. Because I'm going to show you not only how to recognize the corridors of consequence in your life that can lead to the changes you desire to see in your life and in yourself. I'm also going to show you how to navigate those corridors of consequence so you will know how to make the decisions that will lead to the outcomes you desire, that will ultimately lead to the very consequences you want to be experiencing in your life. By the time we are done working together, as long as you stay with me, you will be able to clearly identify the differences between how successful people handle their corridors of consequence compared to the way the rest of the 95%, 98% of people do it, because there is a definite difference. Dan Kennedy, who is a serial multimillionaire entrepreneur, highly paid. He's sought after marketing business strategist, advisor to countless first generation from scratch multimillionaire and seven-figure income earners, entrepreneurs, professionals. So it might not be a bad idea to listen to what he has to say. He breaks it down this way. He says 1% of the people in the whole world create tremendous incomes and wealth. 4% do very well, 15% earn good livings, 60% struggle endlessly, and 20% fail. And we're going to talk about success in another video. But for right now, I just want to talk about corridors of consequence, because first of all, we better define what a corridor of consequence is. A corridor of consequence is basically a representation of the journey of your life. If you were to imagine that you were walking down a long, long hallway and there are doors on either side of the hallway, this hallway is your life, and this is the corridor. And the choices that you have to make every single day, that's what the doors represent. You get to a door and you get to decide, am I going to go in the door? Am I going to do something else? And so that's a corridor of consequence. We're going to talk about that. But first, let's go back to Dan Kennedy's percentages for the people and how successful they are. And of course, he's talking about financial success. But is success only measured by how rich you are? Of course not. There are lots of different categories that we could totally use to define success, and they all fall into three categories: health, wealth, and relationships. All of these are important. Is success only measured by how rich you are? Of course not. There are lots of different categories that we could use to define success, and they all fall into three categories. They are health, wealth, relationships. All of these are important, but most well-grounded, and yes, I meant to say grounded, people will say, they would agree that health and relationships matter a lot more than wealth. I absolutely agree with this, and I know that that's true, but success in health and relationships are a lot harder to measure. Wealth is a lot more important than most people like to admit. Wealth helps change the world. But even so, there are a lot of things that are more important than wealth. But your financial health is easy to measure. So I'm using wealth to illustrate the principle. The other thing about wealth is that it doesn't seem to matter which of the three categories of success you are measuring. If you were to track and measure the success of a person's personal relationships and their scores are consistently high, meaning they have strong and healthy relationships with their family, with their partners, their peers, and the other people that they associate with, you would find that they would score high in the health category as well as the wealth category. If you were to track and measure the success of a person's physical health, meaning how well they take care of the body and make choices that will allow their body to perform at optimal levels, and you found that their scores were consistently high, you would find that they would typically score high in the wealth category as well as the relationship category. And the same goes for wealth. Someone who's extremely financially successful will typically be more successful in the health and relationship categories too. Why is this? It's because they are true to certain principles, and the principles don't change. The situations may be different, the people may be different, the decisions and actions in different situations will change, but the principles are the same. This is why content writers are able to clearly identify the differences between what the rich people do and what the poor people do. And one of the things rich people do is that they know how to recognize the corridors of consequence in their life. They are able to quickly identify all the options that particular corridor of consequence brings. They know how to choose the right actions to take. They have the discipline to take them, and they know how to handle the reactions that come from outside sources regarding their decisions. So, what is a corridor of consequence? A corridor of consequence is that moment where you have a choice to make. You have a decision to make, and that decision will create an outcome. It leads to an outcome, which then creates a consequence. And the consequences you're living in your life right now are happening because of that cycle, because of that continuum, and you have an option to change it. But even though you can change it, how about if we recognize the corridor of consequence at the beginning? We take the steps to handle that consequence the right way, navigate it where we maximize the best opportunities our life has to offer. And then we can absolutely take advantage of that. Then we don't have to go back and fix it later. We're always going to have things that we have to go back and fix. But learn to recognize the corridors of consequence in your life before it becomes an issue, before you make the wrong choice. And when you do make the wrong choice, or you realize you could have made a better choice, then pick yourself up, make a different choice, create an action that changes the trajectory, because all you have to do is change the trajectory just a little bit. And all of a sudden, you're on a different course. You've got this, and you can totally make this happen for you. Because in other words, people who are successful at their corridors of consequence, they know how to handle the reactions that come from outside sources regarding their decisions. They have mastered the art of navigating their corridors of consequence. And the thing that's awesome about this is that those same principles will work for you to create success in your health, in your wealth, your relationships. All you have to choose is which category you want to begin with. And whichever category you start with, as you begin to create change, the other two categories will automatically rise with the tide. And that's how that works. Most people think that the people who are healthy or wealthy or have the amazing body or the perfect relationships are just #blessed. They think it's not fair. Nobody ever said life would be fair. And if they did, they were lying. We all get a life. We all get to breathe. We all have a beating heart. We all have a physical body that works at some level, or we wouldn't be here. The ultimate consequences of that life are what we get to decide. Yeah, I just said that. What? Yes, I said that you get to decide the ultimate consequences in your life. In other words, you have decided to be exactly where you are right now. That is a powerful and a wonderful thing, because it means you really can control not only what you get out of life, but also what your life turns out like. You can't control what life throws at you, but you do get to make decisions about what you're going to do about it. You have so many options, and those decisions lead to outcomes that create consequences. There is a powerful truth that is hard to hear, but it is the most hopeful thing that I could ever tell you. It's this: the consequences you are living with right now are your own fault. Hard to hear. Let it sink in for just a minute. What you have in your life right now, you have because of the choices you have made. How the heck can I say that that's hopeful? Because if it's your fault, then you have the power to do something about it. If it's not your fault, then you are completely disempowered. There's not a thing you can do about it. Don't pout because you have to take responsibility and it's hard. Begin to dream because you have the power to change it.